Wellington's south coast is bearing the brunt of what's been described as an environmental disaster, with the Moa Point wastewater treatment plant continuing to send millions of litres of sewage into the sea. Beaches are closed, but it doesn't just happen in Wellington. Every time it rains, it feels like we're pumping our own stuff out into the sea. What does it do to the marine life there? Andrew Jeffs is Professor of Marine Science at the University of Auckland and joins me live this morning at the desk. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
So can we speak generally, and then we might come to Wellington? But when you have a sewage overflow or a spill, does it affect marine life, and for how long?
It certainly affects marine life. Obviously, you're putting a mix of material into the environment, and some of that material has a short-term effect, and some of it has a forever effect. So, for example, things like plastics, which don't break down in the marine environment very quickly at all. They're there for hundreds of years. You've got heavy metals, which are often toxic. Once they're in the system, they're in the system for good. And so they reverberate through the food chains. Animals eat them, and then other animals eat them. Some of those animals, like fishes, we might catch them and eat them. So it goes through the whole food chain. Yes.
Circle of life.
It is a circle of life.
Where do the heavy metals come from?
They come from all over the place, but a key one, for example, is vehicles. We have copper and lead, which is included in tyre construction, and as the tyres wear, they wash off onto the road. And New Zealand's, a lot of our stormwater just runs into the sewage systems, and when that overflows into the sea, those heavy metals end up in the sea. And both of those metals are very toxic to marine life, particularly copper.
Right, and then so it kills some fish, kills some shellfish.
Shellfish in particular, or it can do things like interfere with their reproduction, so they can't, they get weird reproductive patterns, and so they don't reproduce anymore. Right,
that's sad. And then what does it do to us? Not much until there's enough of it.
Some heavy metals are toxic to humans. For example, there's one, cadmium, which once it reaches certain levels, it can cause problems in humans as well, and shellfish tend to accumulate it.
How close are we to reaching the bad levels, the dangerous levels?
It varies in parts of the country, but in parts of Auckland Harbour, for example, with historic pollution, we're already at those limits.
Which is where they say don't take shellfish from this area.
Generally,
that kind
yes.
Of thing. Right, let's talk Wellington. So there was initially an outflow pipe 5 metres basically at the beach where they were pumping raw untreated sewage. Now it's 1.5 to 2 k's offshore, but they're still saying this morning, they told us no swimming for months before this stops. So what does that mean for?
My understanding is that they've got a limit to how much they can put down the pipe. Once the flows go above that limit, they have to discharge locally. So you've got ongoing pollution in the coastal environment as well as offshore. So it'll be going on for months, and so there'll be that accumulation of those toxic materials in the environment. There's also a human risk because humans produce a lot of bacteria. People who are sick produce bacteria and viruses that are infectious, and many of those can actually survive in salt water. And when you get waves or wind flicking up spray, it can aerosolize, or just basically put them into the air and blow them on shore. So somewhere like Wellington is, it's got an issue there because it's a windy city, strong southerly. It could be carrying those viruses and bacteria inland. So one of the warnings is don't walk on the beach. Well, if it's strong southerly, I'd be cautious. So places like California, they've found increased rates of respiratory illness and stomach complaints from people living close to the coast where there's raw sewage being discharged off the coast.
What types of viruses, bacteria are you talking about, like Giardia or something?
No, not Giardia, but fecal bacteria that cause, and rotaviruses, for example, that cause, severe
Campylobacter or something like
that.
That. Right. So it comes out of us.
Yep.
We pump it into the ocean.
Yep.
Comes to the surface of the sea. Wind whips it up onshore. You're out for a walk with the dog.
and you breathe it in, and it infects
God,
you.
and this is months we're talking about in Wellington.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what about hanging out the washing and stuff? And you're getting your washing in and you're putting your clothes on. I mean, the whole thing just seems a bit filthy, doesn't it?
Well, I guess it's a broader issue that, the infrastructure designed to deal with these things is struggling to cope with the loads that we're subjecting it to.
And when you think about further out, they're pumping it further out into the Cook Strait. Mm-hmm. Does that, for months, does that have an effect, or is the ocean so large that it can absorb that, and the marine life will be all right out there catching fish, etc.?
Well, it certainly reduces the risk onshore for people in terms of collecting shellfish or diseases blowing onshore. But offshore, the Cook Strait's got very strong currents, so it's being diluted and dispersed quite quickly. I mean, that's a good thing in a way, that it's reducing the localised effect, but a bad thing on the other side, because it's dispersing the effect over a bigger area, but at lower concentrations. So in places like Cook Strait's an important fishing area, for example. There's a big canyon there, which is an important hoki fishery, for example. Roughly 20,000 tonnes of fish come out of that area a year. And so those fish will be getting, will be consuming some of that material, and so it'll be getting into seafood products.
Sorry to laugh, but so 20,000 tonnes of hoki comes from underneath basically Cook Strait.
Around 20,000 tonnes of seafood generally.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll have a sprinkling of Wellington's
they'll certainly be eating it, and the studies show that things like plastics, microplastics, can work their way through the gut and into the tissues.
All right. Well, on that cheering note, thank you for coming. Love the shirt, by the way.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in this morning, Andrew, and nice to meet you. Andrew Jess, Professor of Marine Science at the University of Auckland.